And welcome back, adventurers, once again to another episode of Let's Play Chaos Child. In the last episode, Nano Kurisu was standing before the memorial commemorating those who fell during the Shibuya earthquake nearly 6 years ago now. And one of those victims happened to be a childhood friend of hers by the name of Senri sorry if I butcher that name. Minami Minamisawa. Yeah, of course I would butcher the name as I'm trying to record the episode, but that's a let's play for you, I'm afraid. But in any event, the loss of her friend Senri wasn't the only thing that was troubling Kurisu. She was in fact concerned, particularly in regards to Hanai Arimura, because she unexpectedly pretty much overheard exactly what it was that Hanai said to Takuru Miyashiro, which was that he would be killed at some point, unbeknownst to Takuru, who at this point in time is pretty much waiting for the latest in Shibuya news from the internet broadcaster K. And on a complete side note, we also learned about what a Rorschach test was. Not going to repeat that again. If you didn't check out the tips at the end of the last episode, that is on you. I'm going to read that out a second time. Or Takuru will elaborate on what it actually is. The test involved pouring black and red ink down a folded card and spreading it out to create a strange symmetrical image. And that's just brought to mind that I actually know what a Rorschach test kind of is, though not its meaning. And the reason I say that is because one such thing was actually used in the 1995 film Batman Forever. This here, for example, basically what a Rorschach test is supposed to do is you look at an image and it is, well, it is entirely subjective and dependent on the observation of viewers like yourself, like you and I. And you see different things based on your visual interpretation. For example, this right here, in my view, looks like, well, kind of like a moth, so to speak. Could be something entirely unrelated to bugs altogether. But, yeah. I say that because the Rorschach test in Batman Forever was seen by none other than Bruce Wayne as, ironically enough, a bat. But enough about Batman Forever. Different people would see the shape as a dog's head or a man and woman kissing, and what you saw told you about your personality. So what does that mean for my personality when I say that this kind of, I say resembles a moth? Only resembles. I'm not saying that it is a moth. It's a completely different observation altogether. But the idea of using it to determine your popularity or your compatibility with a certain girl was just so stupid I had to laugh. Says the guy who is totally not interested whatsoever in Cool Cat Press magazines. Yeah. As for what these other ones are, I'm not going to tell you.
この図形は羊か？
I couldn't even begin to tell you. Not what I would have picked, but I'll leave it to you to figure that one out, Takuru. And also probably for my amusement as well as your own adventurers, if you want to, you can pause the video and in particular leave in the comments below what your impressions are of those different shapes. It's consider it a thought experiment of sorts.
何々これが羊などの毛に覆われた動物に見えたあなたは、本心を隠そうという意識が強く、女の子には何を考えているかわからない人ととても警戒されています。
Well, considering the fact that I didn't have any impressions whatsoever of those other three shapes, and nor did I care to give those impressions, even if I did, I couldn't even begin to tell you. So basically, something that I said in the previous episode is that a Rorschach test is basically employs elements of, say, tarot card readings with astrology. Yeah, astrology, not astronomy. Astronomy is the actual study of stars. Astrology is basically zodiac signs in the newspaper and so on and so forth.
そんなあなたのモテ度は20点です。なんだと。
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't laugh, but it is too hilarious. 20 out of 100, that's probably average. In any event, my population would definitely probably suck compared to that, but I don't really care at this point. But Takuru has noticed something else. I snap back to my senses. I was close. I almost did the whole test. Luckily for me, I didn't. I tossed the magazine on my desk. And then, as if she'd been waiting for me to finish, Kay's voice became a little more serious. This is what we're here for, so let's buckle up and see what she has to say. Oh, here.
このように今日も渋谷ではいろんなニュースがありましたが、そろそろ本題に入りましょう。
It's what we've been waiting for.
今日、放送の機会を設けさせていただいたのは、ある一つの記事を皆さんに紹介したいと思ったからです。
A certain article. Definitely sounds intriguing. The point? What article was she talking about? Well, if you weren't busy inner monologuing with yourself, Takuru, Kay is about to explain that. I listened intently to Kay's words.
内容は、この放送やサイトでも頻繁に取り上げさせていただいている事件に関してのもの。そう、今渋谷で起こっている連続猟奇事件です。
Now there is obviously no way that Takuru can know this from our perspective, but I have this strange feeling that this person is familiar, and it should obviously be familiar to you. And for anyone who says who she is in the comments, please don't. I'm doing this as a joke, but I digress. But yeah. Wouldn't have pegged you as the person behind K, but well, surprise, surprise.
6年前の渋谷で連続して起こったニュージェネレーションの狂気という事件の日付と今回の連続猟奇事件の日付が一致していることは以前に述べましたが、
Well, this foreshadowing definitely changes everything, at least for me.
この動画はそれ以外の共通点を指摘してくださっています。
But As Takuru has already surmised, he isn't the only one putting the dots all together. What? Had someone other than us noticed? It was only a matter of time, but I can tell you one thing, Takuru. They're not technically attached to the police force.
このアドレスです。
And of course, since Takuru doesn't know who Kei's true identity is, little does he realize that this entire setup is a deliberate ploy of sorts.
Huh?
Hate to break it to you, Takuru, but I think the Mose has been using some pretty cunning tricks to try and lure out anyone who might know something about this. I clicked the link she posted immediately after I saw it. It was an address for a Nico Nia video. The few seconds it took to load felt like an eternity. Is this the same video from before, or is this a completely different video? Guess we'll find out.
来たって。
Is that what I think it is? Huh? It can't be. I saw the thumbnail for the video and quickly turned away. Yeah, Takuru's still traumatized by that other experience that he had with the Sumo sticker. And then I grabbed my phone. But what I was about to say is that it couldn't have been the video that Takuru and the newspaper club put on their website. Is it? Or isn't it? So many questions. Too many questions. And still few answers.
尾上、渋谷ニュース聞いてるか？早く見てみろ。僕らの動画が特集されてる。
Yep, it's our video that Kei is reporting on. Which means that the police will have figured out that Takuru and Sarika were involved. At least in trying to find things out. Which may or may not be a good thing. October 7th, 2015 Wednesday, the next day. Sakurago Kacho Shibuya. Yeah, there was no way I was going to say that without throat twisting myself. Trustworthiness investigation company Freesia. I was wondering when we were going to return to this place. It has been far too long since we were last here.
それでは今回はこの辺りでお付き合いいただきありがとうございます。わずかな時間のお相手は私、K さんでした。
Yeah, sorry for interrupting your sign off there, but I was going to say it was a good thing that we were at this point because I had forgotten what your name was, Mio Kunosato. Of course, she's moonlighting as Kei, the broadcaster, but that is an alias. But we already figured that out. 時刻は間もなく2015年10月7日0時22分。悔いのない一日が始められることを祈っています。 Excuse me. My voice is a bit sore there. Kunosato gave her usual sign-off and ended the broadcast. It's all connected. She stretched expansively, her shoulders cracking as the stretch passed through her entire body. She knew that acting like a proper lady was the way to get listeners for these guerrilla radio broadcasts, but it still felt like she was taking things too far. After almost 100 times she was used to it, but she never finished a broadcast without feeling exhausted. Well, doing this for hours on end can exhaust anyone. I should know. I mean, hell, I've been doing these videos for hours. And there's good old Detective Takeshi Shinjo waiting in the wings. I bet he's probably surprised that during her broadcast, Mio's entire personality went on a 180-degree twist. Almost like a certain high school student from before.
Yeah.
But of course, Shinjo still doesn't know how to reconcile himself with Mio's usual personality.
お疲れ様みおちゃん。コーヒーは？
Ladies and gentlemen, may I reintroduce you for those who have followed me during my ChäoS LP to Katsuko Momose. It has been 6 years, but not in real time, obviously. And yeah, I would never say no to free coffee, but she's not offering me coffee, alas. Arigato indeed. Shinjo watched, stunned, as Mio leaned back in her chair, crossed her legs, and accepted a coffee from Momose. You know what? I was actually expecting a certain other someone to be here with Momose here at the Freesia building. But will that person be here or not? I don't know.
昼間の有村といい、最近の若い女の子はどうなってるんだ?
Yeah, Shinjo is pretty much still in the dark when it comes to this investigation, among other things. Oh well. She sure didn't look like a girl who'd been speaking into a computer microphone with a pleasant voice just a moment ago. He knew that this was what she was really like, but...
Huh?
Her eyes met with his. My intuition is telling me that this isn't going to end well. In fact, it usually doesn't.
何をしていたんだ今のは?
Believe it or not, that is actually a very important question.
情報の発信だ。他に何がある?
That was a very curt answer there indeed.
Huh?
But there is a method behind all this, as I'm sure we're about to find out. That made no sense. Broadcasting information? Doesn't make sense to you, Shinjo, at least not at face value. But that information is kind of like bait. And of course it can be used to lure fish or moths to the fire.
まあ、新庄ちゃんがわからないのも無理はないけどね。
But of course, we have Momose here to explain it, so I don't have to. Momose glanced over at Kunosato.
みおちゃんはうちの大切な情報屋なの。本業は研究者だけど。
はあ? その年でですか?
You'd be surprised at what people can do nowadays. I mean, last I checked, I actually heard that a 9-year-old student was actually able to go to university.
そう、アメリカの研究所に飛び級で招かれた天才。
And then, of course, there was a certain other Japanese American student who was quite prominent. But that's
私
not
は秀
important
才
right
型で
now.
す。天才ってやつはこんなもんじゃない。
Although speaking of Kurisu Makase, I wonder how these two would get along.
それ、よく電話で話してるあなたがお世話になった子のこと？
Was that actually somebody tied into the investigation? Or was it just one of Mio's friends? Kunosato nodded and started to massage her tired shoulders. And Shinjo's still looking lost. I can't help you. There. He'd had no idea. He thought she was pretty grown up for a 17-year-old, but, well, again... Actually, yeah, Kurisu would be 22 now, but I digress.
何の研究を？
And that's Kurisu, not Kurusu. They're totally different people. But you didn't need to know that.
私のプロフィールが事件と関係あるのか？
いや、そうじゃないが。
ここよ。
Thank you. Momose pointed at Shinjo's head. Oh,
頭？
脳みそ。量子脳論特別研究員。
quantum brain dynamics. Now, if Kurisu Makase was here, she would definitely talk non-stop about this. The name given to a scientific field that attempts to explain brain activity, particularly human consciousness, from a quantum mechanical perspective. Getting Steins Gate Zero vibes now. Ugh.
なぜ碧峰学園に？
渋谷にある壁砲はいろいろとカオスチャイルド症候群を研究するのにちょうどいいからよ。ね。
And ever since the first episode of this LP adventure, we finally get a mention of ChäoS Child Syndrome yet again.
本題に入りませんか？
You know what? I agree wholeheartedly. Without waiting for Shinjo or Momose to agree, she continued.
有村は力士シールについて何か言っていたか？
Of course that arrangement would be their doing.
俺にはタメ口なんだよな。
Yeah, can't really help you with that either, Shinjo. He sighed to himself.
おい、
いや、何を気にしているか知らないが、気味悪がっていただけだ。
Yes, indeed she did.
確かか？
A very telling reaction that.
何をそんなに気にしている？そういえば、さっきもシールについて何か言っていたな。
Indeed she was. Since she was the one who also made the same leap of conclusions that Takuru did. He thought back to how different Kunosato's voice was when she was on the radio.
あれは何をしていたんだ？
だから情報の発信だと言っただろ。
You're actually going to have to be a little bit more specific this time there, Mio. And you will also have to be very specific in your questions there, Shinjo.
ちゃんと説明してあげたら？これから新庄ちゃんとは解決まで協力することになるんだし。
Momose, I'm so glad you're here. It's nice to have somebody who can actually cut through the bullshit. Kinosato didn't bother to hide her displeasure at Momose's interruption. Too bad.
ギブアンドテイクでしょ。
もらえるものがあればいいんですがね。
Equivalent exchange. We all know how double-edged that sword is. That was enough to piss Shinjo off.
お前な、
Oy
少しは年長者に対する敬意を。
今年発表された主要メディアの利用率を知っているか？
Would it matter if I said no?
は？
I imagine there'll be quite a lot of usage though.
ネットの利用者は全体で7割、10代では8割、20代30代では9割が利用していて、いずれもテレビよりも利用率が高い。
Indeed. Yeah, internet use has pretty much spiked since then, but well, as archaic as it sounds, I still read newspapers from time to time. I know, right? Old-fashioned.
都市部に限定すればもっとわかる。
But that's the, yeah, that is the result of living in a social media world, I'm afraid.
10代20代で新聞を日常的に利用しているやつは1割もいない。去年も一昨年もそう変わらん。
Yeah. I mean, I don't read a newspaper daily myself, but I do like to read a newspaper every now and again. That is, if somebody else isn't reading it.
中学生へのスマホの普及率は半分以上。高校生以上になると9割5分。スマホを持っていることはネットを利用していることと同義だ。
Well, they say there is an exception to every rule, and I would happen to name myself as that exception in this example there, Mio, because, yeah, I never use the internet on my smartphone. Very rarely do I do that. I use my PC for that, though.
待て、
So
何の話だ？
I shouldn't probably gloat that much, but I digress.
普段手に入れる情報をネットだけに依存している人間がどれだけいると思う？
Yeah, pretty much most of the planet's population. And I hear footsteps. No, that was Mio. Kunasato suddenly stood up and brought over the mobile PC she'd been using to stream. She opened up something on the screen for Shinjo to see. Is it Shibuya News? It was the homepage of a major newspaper. Dated yesterday. Surveillance Society Committee member sues Koshin. Dated yesterday. Area woman has filed a 1.1 million yen suit against a venture capital firm. Suit is dated the 2nd. I'm just paraphrasing here, if you couldn't already tell. Security cameras in Shibuya took video of her laundry and uploaded it without her permission. Oh dear. The webpage in question was built at the request of the ward government to improve security, but no comment was made. Wait a minute, this is, could this be, in this vicinity of where Takuru lives? I wonder. There was an article about Shibuya, a Shibuya resident suing Koshin for, Koshin, sorry, not Konshin, for invasion of privacy. Koshin, of course, being the people who have been setting up all sorts of surveillance cameras around the city.
これは私が起こした。
Huh?
Yeah. That is to say,
監視社会の問題を考える団体の一人がツイポの中毒者でな。
you'd be surprised how many Twitter addicts there are on the internet these days. Fortunately, I'm
同
not
様
one
の
of
思
them.
想を持つアカウントとホームページを別々の人間としてでっち上げ、
In some cases, that would actually be illegal.
過去にあった効果的な判例に誘導し、複数人からあなたは被害者だと言われているように思わせた。
Ah. Well, if that isn't mass media manipulation, I don't know what is. Of course, then again, I would actually go so far as to say that Koshin isn't exactly playing with a full deck when it comes to the city surveillance.
踏ん切りがつかなかったようだから、週末に更新側が取った無礼な態度を録音させ、それをネタに炎上させた。その結果が。
Was this, she said as she tapped the PC. For those of you who have played the original Command & Conquer, you should know what happens through mass media manipulation.
まさか。
The damage it can cause, and worse. You can basically manipulate opinions of pretty much anyone of any age. Those who, however, don't solely rely on social media for their information, or those who are actually able to use their own mental faculties to assess the situation, will not be so easily swayed, however.
ネットに依存しているやつが一番食いつく情報は、自分にとって都合がいいネット以外のメディアの情報だ。
Yeah. What Mio said. Of course, however, if you have critical thinking, like I believe I do, yeah, you'll want to question everything, even yourself.
かけてもいいが、こいつは提訴に関して、私が紹介した書籍以外は一行も読んでないぞ。
No. Sadly, there are a lot of people who take things at face value. In fact, I believe that was the case even before social media ever existed, in its present form. Not that I've ever seen her face, Kunosato continued. The way she spoke alone was enough to make Shinjo believe she was telling the truth. And it may sound like magic, and it is. It sounds like magic crossed with hypnotism, crossed with all sorts of other things, and psychology and all that. But tragically, it is rather simplistic and overly straightforward once you understand it.
なんでそんなことを。
百瀬さんから 更新がきな臭いことは聞いているだろう。私も同じ考えだ。なるべくイメージを落としておきたい。そして
Yeah, so I was right on the money there regarding Koshin and of course Momose's investigation into them. But of course, damaging a company's public image is one thing, damaging their reputation is one thing. Finding their dirty secrets and emerging unscathed is an entirely different scenario altogether. As we have learned from the original ChäoS
私が今欲しいのは力士シールに関する情報だ。
Yeah. So while I should probably elaborate my thinking here, since I have a tendency to think before I speak, but yeah, through her guise of well, actually, let me rephrase that. On the other side of the screen, listeners of Shibuya News will believe that they're getting information from K concerning, well, the Shibuya stickers and the new generation madness, but it is actually a double ploy. Because then they will be tempted to give information of their own to the internet through K, aka Mio. It is actually rather clever when you think about it. And of course, one of those fish out there in the sea that is the internet is, of course, Takuru Miyashiro. And he has no idea. The screen was indeed showing a picture of the Sumo sticker. Yeah. And hopefully Takuru can use his own mental faculties to actually realize that things are about to take a turn. And then...
碧峰学園新聞部
Oh dear. Yeah. It was only a matter of time before this was bound to happen, but well, actually, if the police had found this, they probably would have ignored it in the microisms of the internet. But not Momose and certainly not Mio. Shinzo's gaze landed on a phrase in the video's introduction. Wasn't that where those kids who snuck into the Love Hotel went? Busted is a grievous understatement at this point.
首を突っ込むなと注意しておいたのに
That you did, but here's the thing. They were already involved before you told them that. His tone was irritated as he remembered the faces of the boy and the girl, Takuru and Serika. I think we're in trouble, guys. Kunosato, however, seemed to find it rather entertaining.
なかなかに気のつく連中だ。利用できるときに利用しておく。
Yeah, I thought so. God damn it.
今から。そうだな。12時間もすれば、この動画に力士シールに関しての情報が殺到する。
Yeah, information conveniently provided by you of all people. And sadly, Takuru has no idea that, well, he believes that he is receiving crucial information about the stickers from K, when in fact it's a fishing expedition designed to get what he knows about the sumo stickers to Mio. Clever girl.
さっきの放送での情報発信は、そのための仕込みの一つだ。
Yeah. This very much is kind of like spycraft. And intelligence gathering, dissemination, and misinformation, all in one. After what she told them about her dealings with Koshin, he couldn't help but believe her. It may be underhanded, but it is a useful way of getting intelligence.
何新庄ちゃん
And Shinjo is still flailing around as always.
いえ
He realized that he must have been looking at Momose for an answer. Just who was this girl?
あ、ダメよ新庄ちゃん。みおちゃんに手出したら。
You're starting to sound like Ron there for a
何言
second.
ってるんですか
He felt his cheeks turn red at this entirely unexpected response, which, in his defense, wasn't what he was thinking about.
違いますこれは図星とかではなく
Or maybe it was.
分かってるわよ。まだまだね。
Yeah, that's what they... Yeah. If I had a penny for, or a dollar for how many times I've heard that phrase in life,
有村
but I
は
don't.
他に同類を見つけていないんだな。
Yeah. The net is tightening around Takuru. Kunosato interrupted. Sorry.
ああそう言っていた
That's what she said. And she was the only one who was unconscious during Kaikito's murder. Or Kakita. Like, why do I keep saying
であれ
Kaikita?
ば、次に狙われる可能性があると分かっているのは有村だけになる。何の目的かは知らないが、おそらく10月10日に。
And once again, Mio is demonstrating that she has already come to the same conclusions as Takuru.
ああ
But the only person that they can definitively pinpoint on is Hanai Arimura. For the moment. October 10th. The date of the vampire incident 6 years ago, also known as Vampire House. And I will keep pointing
い
that
ざ
out
となったら
every time
お
it
とり
comes
に
up.
使ってしまえばいい。狙われるかどうかは分からんがな。
Of course, unbeknownst to, well, it is basically what she's saying is technically true. They don't know whether or not Hanai herself will end up being a victim in this case. But unbeknownst to these three, there is a certain other target who doesn't know he's a target. Well, he does and he doesn't. We'll put it that way. Well, he knows he's a target but doesn't know why. Not yet, anyway.
そんなことできるわけないだろ
So Mio is suggesting they use Hanai as live bait. Shinjo slammed his fist down on the desk and glared at Kunosato. That was going too far even for him. And yet, in a situation where the perpetrators have gone further than anyone would dare go, it might be the only way, but... Instead of getting scared, Kunosato glared back at him with an expression he'd never seen before. Her face was cold and dangerous, like the blade of a knife. She looked more like one of the people he'd arrested than anyone he'd saved.
お前は事件の解決に協力してくれるんだろう。言っておくが、いざという時の指示には従ってもらうぞ。
Hate to break it to you, Shinjo, but Mio works for Momose, not you, and certainly not the police force.
こちらも言っておくがな。
Of course, Mio has her own demands. Kunosato put her hands on the desk and drew closer to him.
私がまず殺したいのは今回の事件の犯人で。
So she is after the perpetrator or perpetrators.
その次は有村をはじめとするそいつらだ。
Huh. And like that, we've come to another sharp turn. Which brings forth the question that has suddenly risen to my mind. Exactly what kind of grudge does Mio Kunosato have with Hanai Arimura? Ominous. Truly ominous. And back at Hikio Academy.
めんどくさいな。
Looks like a dull, boring school day. Although I wonder, well, given that it's the internet, I doubt that Takuru couldn't help but see that the video's view count has definitely jumped up from what it was when they originally uploaded it, which was 5. But in any event, I believe I am going to call this an episode. Is this an hour? Is it not? Who can say? But all I will say is that when we return to Adventurers, we shall see how things have progressed on Takuru's end of the investigation. As always, until next we meet.